Hi, I'm Amanda and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Here I am dabbling, trying to figure out what I want to do next with my career and just generally trying new things and having fun along the way. So firstly, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has reached out and shown me support for this new journey that I'm embarking on. It means so much to know that I have people in my corner cheering me on and who want to follow along on this journey with me. It makes me feel so much better knowing that I am not doing it alone, having some people, alongside me, and I just wanted to say thanks. This video specifically is going to be a blend of some of my crafty for fun endeavors, as well as dipping a toe into what's to come with my Microsoft Mastery area of exploration. Yarn. I have a lot of it here. And what I'm working on is a temperature blanket. Firstly, let me tell you what a temperature blanket is in case you don't know. A temperature blanket is knitted or crocheted, and one row represents a day of the year. The color that you use for the yarn corresponds to the high temperature for that day, and there will be a key of ranges for temperatures, and depending on what temperature the high falls into, you use a certain color. I want to do a temperature blanket for my baby, and starting on their birthday. So instead of the typical temperature blanket, which is for the calendar year, I'm actually going to do one for just the first year of their life. This was an idea that I had. It also is going to be a little bit easier for me to catch up since I'm not starting all the way back on January 1st, and it is currently July. And I also wanted to make my own color gradient. There are many out there, but I wanted to make my own, and ranges that I'm going to use, because a lot of the preset ones I was finding, I was never going to use the bottom 3 or so colors, because living in the southeast, it's pretty mild and warmer in the winters, and it might get down to the 20s, 30s, even in the teens as the low temperature, really cold when you wake up in the morning, but the high temperatures of the day hardly ever get below 30, to be honest. So I had to adjust the ranges. And today I wanted to show you how I am combining my crafty, fun side with Microsoft, and specifically I used Excel. If you know me, this should come as no surprise. I love Excel. And that's how I figured out what I wanted my temperature ranges to be. So let me get these out of the way. So yeah, anyways, crocheting a temperature blanket. Let's jump into the Excel. So forgive me, I'm a little bit rusty at this. It's been a while since I have done a kind of training, but bear with me. On the left-hand side here, I brought in some data for the past few years of weather in our area so that I can look at what the temperature ranges looked like, and I can make my buckets and then test against those with the past few years of data. Over here on the right-hand side is really the more interesting part, so I'm going to go ahead and move over there. What I did here was I started with my top bucket, which I have set as 91 degrees and above, and I based all the other values on that ultimately. The high end of the range right below is just the range above -1 degree. And then I set up these ranges in terms of the number of degrees within each bucket over here on the left to make the low end value. So for example, this is 90, 86 is 90 -4. This 86 value is being driven off of the 4. So I did this so that I could very quickly and easily just change all the values. You see, I just changed this 4 to a 5 and all of the other values updated, and I did that so that it would easily update as I played around with figuring out what the right ranges should be. So that was the first step. I brought in my nice colors so you can see my lovely gradient and the yarn names here. The bold simply means that I have 2 skeins or balls of those colors of yarn, And each skein is supposed to give about 27 days worth of yarn. So that was one of the things that I was thinking about when I made these ranges, is I didn't want to have any in these bottom 3 that were above that over the past few years on average, the number of days that fell into that bucket. These here are my count ifs functions. So with these count ifs, to break it down simply, what I was doing was looking for the dates that fell into the year 2020. And then for each of these different rows, I was looking at which dates fell into that temperature bucket. So for example, this top one is just, what's greater than or equal to 91, how many days in 2020 fell into that. And that logic is applied. This formula is basically the same for all of these. I just set it up using some absolute references and relative references. So all I had to do was make this one formula, and then I dragged it over to the bottom and over to the right. And this is how I do a lot of my stuff. And again, I'm going to be doing more Microsoft tutorials, so let me know if you're interested in diving into any of this stuff. I already have some ideas about what I'm going to create tips and tricks and how-to videos on, but I would love to hear from you. This again is telling me how many days fell into each of these buckets throughout that year. So then I just created a formula here to calculate the average of those 3 years. And that's what I have shown here. I played around with the ranges a bit, and ultimately this is what I ended up with. I have enough yarn for all of these. Even though they're more than 27 days, I have 2 skeins, so I should be okay there. And then these bottom 3, it looks like there was in 2021 more days that were cooler, but then in 2020 there were fewer, so we'll have to see how this year turns out. And that's about it. So this was part 1. Part 2, which was super fun, I'm gonna show you next, is I wanted to see not just how many days and making sure on average that I'm gonna have enough yarn and all that fun stuff, but I also wanted to see what would it look like if I had used these ranges of colors to create a temperature blanket for these past few years. And this is what they looked like. So to put it simply, what I did here is I copied and pasted the data for each of these years just to the left of my colorful cells. So in cells A and B, I have the date and the temperature for each corresponding date for each of these A, B, D, E, G, H columns. And then what I did for my conditional formatting was I applied it to these wider cells, C, F, I, right next to them. And what I did was I created, I'm going to show you really quickly, I used a formula to determine which cells to format, because this is where you can really unlock the power of conditional formatting. The pre-built-in stuff is awesome, but you couldn't do this with the pre-built-in conditional formatting. And what I did was, so the top one is a little bit different. I only needed to look at greater than or equal to 91, but the rest of them are all just duplicated with the cells references slightly changed, what I was pointing back to on the original sheet. So the cool thing there is that if I update the ranges that I showed, these colors also will update on this page. So I made, again, everything is dynamic, and that's how I like to set things up. So I pointed back to the ranges and I set the colors, and that's about it. And you can see where it applies to, and I have, again, these same rules just kind of transposed in the other columns. So columns F and I have the same setup going on for pointing to their years each day data. The way that conditional formatting works is if the formula returns a value of true, the conditional formatting will apply the rule to the cell. So if it's in this range of temperatures, it's this color. If it's that range of temperatures, it turns that color. And the result you can see is here. So this is I thought looking pretty promising, and it felt like a good validation of my ranges that I came up with. And then this is the baby blanket mocked up so far this year. And you can see there's a lot of tan so far. And then as we've gotten into the summer, it's warmer. And I'm excited to see how it continues to unfold. So that's today's video. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I know I'm a little rusty at this teaching thing, but I'm gonna get there. I would love to hear your ideas for things that you want to learn about with Excel or other Microsoft products. Hoping to do more videos like that soon. And in the meantime, take care and thanks again.